Lessons learned from BET, an open letter to Nene Ali and Autumn Ashanti. Quote, when we started BET, it was going to be the Ebony magazine of television. We had public affairs programming, we had news. I had a show called Teen Summit, end quote, from Sheila Johnson, former BET Chief Operating Officer. On March 9th of 2014, while in Massachusetts to present my work at Greenfield Community College, I purchased a notebook to pen this very essay. The following morning, I began compiling notes, yet I never wrote the essay. The notebook has traveled thousands of miles since then, and it is in front of me now. I am prepared to begin. BET, Black Entertainment Television, has challenged my understanding of the way things work. I have learned to turn a great deal of blame away from them and toward myself. This is why that came to be. I am sure you're already aware of our internal locus of control. You are magnets that attract souls, energy, and vibrations. BET has demonstrated a certain attraction to my work over the years and has seemingly used it as an experiment to see how those lost in the wilderness would respond when exposed to what we have continuously blamed propagandists for having denied them. It feels like a cop-out that BET, like many others, claim to have had little control over what the youth in particular and Black people in general gravitate toward. Their argument is that had they not veered away from their previously charted positive course, they would have gone bankrupt a decade or more ago. Presumably, the masses crave negativity. By watching BET demonstrate varied and conspicuous support of my work, I got to see firsthand that the onus might fall far more on the shoulders of us conscious artists than previously believed. The airwaves are, to an extent, a utility that propagates messages commensurate with the demand for them. The amalgam of all channels resembles the water or electric utilities. They provide a current based on demand, largely without regard to who is receiving it and what they use it for. We have insisted that Black art is a buyer's market, and the producers who either operate the utility or pay for its use have all the power. However, it is possibly quite the opposite. It is intuitive that consumers themselves may drive which Black art is allowed to excel and which does not. The typical criticism of the channel is that it perpetuates stereotypes and affects the psyche of young viewers through negative images. This does not speak to the negative images the young viewers are bombarded with in real life and the stereotypes that cognitive dissonance does not seem to allow viewers to move beyond. The market is already brainwashed by officially sponsored miseducation, i.e. public schooling, hopelessness, poverty, opiates, co-opted religion, and think tank devised propaganda which pervades through the medium itself. Quote, if you make a man think that he is justly an outcast, you do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told. And if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. From Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. Please recall an earlier point. We have an internal locus of control. Think tanks and governments, regardless of their wealth, are incapable of preventing us from defending the minds of our brethren. In fact, the success of their hegemony is dependent upon us denying our own power to change the status quo. How can we be less capable of saving minds than David Walker was during slavery? This is spiritual war. Money is just one resource in a universe of many. Money is the physical representation of the output of other resources and is obtained, stored, and utilized for its convenience and common unitary value. Indeed, the omnipotence of money is promoted incessantly in hopes of obscuring the fact that there are far more powerful resources afoot. It makes sense that those who control money would promote it as the master of life itself, since the illusion helps to maintain their hierarchical world order. In 2001, BET was purchased by Viacom, a CBS spinoff and global communication conglomerate with 170 networks and estimated 700 million subscribers in 160 countries. Ranked number 6 in the world, BET itself reached nearly 90 million households. The channel originated in the early 1980s when Robert L. Johnson, a cable industry lobbyist, launched the network with financing from John C. Malone, who's considered amongst the largest individual private landowners in the United States. It was a largely positive endeavor at the outset. BET News, which covered African American social issues and popular culture, began in 1988 with Ed Gordon, the former host of Detroit Black Journal, as its anchor. He hosted BET specials such as Black Men Speak Out, The Aftermath, and interviewed the likes of Whitney Houston, President George H.W. Bush, Sidney Poitier, and President Bill Clinton. The following year, on my 19th birthday, as coincidence would have it, BET premiered Teen Summit, which was conceived by COO Sheila Johnson and dealt with the everyday issues of black teenagers. Teen Summit boasted an uplifting and motivational spin. In 1996, BET launched BET Tonight with Tavis Smiley. In 2002, during the final season of Teen Summit, a BET producer saw the video for my poem When the Smoke Clears, which refers to BET as nigger entertainment television and includes the following lines. BET don't seem to be able to see as well as Univision. 99% of the time pimping the worst parts of capitalism through record company hoes, platinum-coated egos, putting out bullshit lyrics hyper-marketed to supersede those revolutionary mantras of yesteryear. Rather than, or in addition to, getting offended, BET decided to air the poem on Teen Summit and interview me about it. I expected a hostile diatribe, but instead the network allowed me to discuss my point of view. However, it should be noted that all BET references were edited out of the video when they featured it. The segment was aired multiple times, but it was as if no one who had seen it paid it any mind. The only time I ever heard mention of it was in spoken word circles. In 2007, when Jenks Morton filmed Market for Niggas for his film What Black Men Think, BET took an even greater interest in my work. On Monday, June 18, 2007, BET introduced a show called The Five, aimed at counting down the 5 hottest people, places, events, gadgets, and websites. The first show of the series listed my work in the #1 slot and used Market as an example. A future episode listed the then 3-year-old True Lies video produced by the Guerrilla News Network in Hayek Housington. Lastly, they invited me to their office in Midtown Manhattan and produced, shot, and edited a segment based on my poem, Troubled Soul Refinery. Not only did The Five include me in 3 segments within the few months that it aired, but they aired each episode no less than 3 times. It is notable that on June 26, 2007, BET aired Market for Niggas, which talks about the buffoonery and cooning in hip-hop, and called it #1, immediately before the 2007 BET Awards. Again, there appeared to be mass cognitive dissonance. It did not match what was happening in people's minds, and likewise, though nearly 4 million people were exposed to it and presumably watched it that night, it seemed few actually processed it. The following year, BET included me in their BET J Lyric Cafe show, hosted by Lettucey and Raheem Devon and featuring several well-known poets such as Will, The Real One Bell, and live performances by musical acts such as Chuck Brown, the late godfather of go-go music. By this time, I had already arrived at the conclusion that very few people were open to processing that which is counter to nearly every other image and idea they are exposed to daily. In the end, a BET producer asked me for a show idea that would involve spoken word. This fizzled out largely because they were leaning toward a reality show, and I was and still am of the opinion that reality shows embarrass people, and one based on spoken word held the potential of relegating our art form to something to be dismissed as laughable or pathetic. Our problem has not been the lack of opportunity or exposure per se. If the masses had shown wide interest in my work as a result of any of the aforementioned opportunities, spoken word would have been afforded even greater exposure. No, our issue is figuring out how to develop compelling work that communicates directly to the masses. I focused on BET in this essay, but other networks such as the documentary channel, which aired Market even more times than BET, have provided similar opportunities. I doubt any network can be held responsible for the fact that our product has yet to compel consumers. There are no true impediments besides the artists themselves to making spoken word increasingly compelling and by extension, widely available. We must demonstrate our abilities as architects of indelible creativity and, even more important, boldly manifest our internal locus of control. We are the masters of our own destiny.